We're live. Hello, everyone. I am with Anna, who I'm sure everyone understands why you're not going to see her tonight. Hello, Anna.
Hi, how are you?
Becky Carter says that she thinks you're very courageous for coming on and giving us more of her story. She is amazing. I can't agree more. In fact, with all of the interviews that I have done and Hidden True Crime has done, there have been so many requests to bring Anna back for a Q&A, and here we are for a live Q&A. So first off, if anybody wants to ask Anna a question, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can join the live chat, and or subscribe anyway, because we are trying to get to 20,000, and then when we do, we're going to celebrate. So thank you for your subscription. Thank you for giving us a thumbs up. Thank you to Peppered with Leopard for my wardrobe, and for their discount code, you can head to our video description in YouTube. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for TGIF. So a couple things, couple rules. I told everyone here that was waiting for us, Anna, because we were a little bit late, that I was talking to you and we were prepping, and then I made sure that everyone understood we were prepping for the interview, discussing this Q&A, and we weren't prepping for the end of the world or anything like that. You have to clarify prepping these days. But I've told Anna that I'll ask her anything. If she ever doesn't want to answer a question, she doesn't have to, and she knows that. Or if she doesn't know the answer to a question, she'll share that. And I also just want to say I love the Hidden True Crime community so much, because the reason that Anna was willing to do this as a live in front of so many people, despite differing beliefs and opinions, was because she knew that our audience was respectful and understanding, and they would listen, and also always have such an interesting dialogue and conversation. So here we are. Thank you, Anna. And then lastly, sorry, all this stuff, but I'm gonna brief everyone a bit on who Anna is right now, but I don't want to go too deep into her two-part interview that she shared here, because we are here to discover more. So anyone that has not seen Anna's two-part interview on our channel, I highly recommend it. I listened to it again tonight and learned more, even listening again, even after I interviewed you, Anna. And it's very, very insightful. And for those that have listened to it, I'd recommend listening to it again. There's so much information there: how the infamous Reddit email came about, how AVOW functions. Anna, I'll just go over this briefly. She knows Chad and Tammy Daybell. She knew them well. She knew Garth and Emma. They were friends of her children. She knows Christopher Parrott, and Christopher Parrott now heads AVOW, the prepping website that Chad Daybell and Julie Rowe were a big part of. And you know Julie Rowe. In fact, they even helped, Anna, correct me if I'm wrong here, you helped edit Chad's book, Hector Sosa's book, and Julie Rowe's book. And just so everyone knows too, they started helping because the first editions came out and they were terrible. So for anyone that's read the books, you guys were like, okay, you guys need a second edition. Here you go. Is that right, Anna? Is everything I said correct?
Yeah, everything was great. Perfect.
Okay. So with that being said, I asked our Patreon members earlier for any questions they had. And so we're going to start with some of those, if that's okay. Oh, and
Sure.
thank you, Fish Face, so much for your support. Thank you so much. So I'm going to start with some questions on from the Patreon members, and then a big request to my moderators tonight. I just can't see every question out there, and I don't want to miss any good ones. If moderators see a great question that I missed, please rewrite it, or point it out to me. Or if someone else says, oh, good point, look at that question, it will help me. Oh my gosh. A huge thank you to Michelle Rice. Thank you so much for your kind donation. I'm trying to put it up, but wow, goodness. Thank you, Michelle. All right. So first question. is from our Patreon members. Let's see. Evelyn starts with this. I'd like to know if Anna thinks that Chad truly believes what he espouses. Also, is she concerned that there are other groups who believe the same things and could be as dangerous as Chad and Lori? And then I do want to say one more thing about that before you answer, Anna. I apologize. I'm going to stop talking and let Anna go. But Anna did inform us that Chad, after this infamous Rexburg Tabernacle Preparing a People event, it was the first Preparing a People event featuring Julie and Chad and everyone. Allegedly, you told us, Anna, that that's when Chad told his children all his fictional books were real. So I just want to throw that background out there too. And that he also taught in your home about his visions and near-death experiences in your home for family night, his whole family. So yeah, that's a question. Do you think he really believes what he espouses? This is a question we all ask.
That is a great question because I've gone over and over it in my mind. And I think that he believed, like, all the stuff in his books, that he totally believed that. And he lived his life, according to that. He moved to Rexburg because he felt like that's where things were going to take place. And I believe he really believed it. Now, when you get into the Lori thing, that's where, okay, did he really believe that? Did he really believe that she was a goddess, that they were translated beings? Did he really believe that they were going to go on and lead the 144,000? I don't know. I really don't know. Part of me says they believe it. They totally believe it. And there's another part of me that says it was about the money. It was about getting the girl. It was lust and greed. So I don't know, but I don't know how to answer that other than I don't know if he believed it, all the stuff he fed Lori, because I do believe he fed her all that. And I know she believed it, and I think she still believes it. But anyway, that's my answer. Yes and no, or yes
Yeah.
and maybe.
Thank you. Thank you. And a lot of people are asking this question in sort of a different way, but are you concerned? So again, Anna was a part of AVOW, which was a big website for dreamers and visionaries and people like Chad. In fact, that's where Julie and Chad met. And then you kind of realized you left AVOW, you realized that it wasn't what you thought, you were almost addicted to it, and it's to create people that, it's to make people think that they're special. But do you feel like this group or other groups believe the same thing and could be as dangerous as Chad and Lori?
I do think that there are some people, and I don't even know what percentage, that were like kind of woke up and thought, oh my gosh, what is all this? And I'm getting off of vow and I'm not, going to have any more to do with that. Kind of like what I did. And in fact, energy healing was kind of wasn't necessarily a part of a vow. And it was interesting because Christopher Parrott had banned the topic of energy healing. And I don't know why, other than I really don't know why. I don't know why, but he banned it. So you couldn't really talk about it there. However, a lot of people were into energy healing. And when the LDS church came out and said, don't get into that. Don't do that. It was first to talk. And then it came out in the handbook. And there was actually a person who went onto YouTube, was really big into it, had created manuals and all kinds of stuff on it. And she just said, I'm done. I'm getting rid of it. Throw my stuff away. Don't sell it. I've seen the light. I'm not going to be a part of this anymore. I think that there is a percentage of people like that. But I also think that there's a big percentage of people that are still kind of believing it in their heart and in their mind. They kind of still believe it, but they don't talk about it. Maybe they, in their congregations, they don't talk to others about it. and they just, but in their heart, they kind of believe it. It's hard for them to let go of those ideas.
Okay. Yeah. Another Patreon question is this is a question that a lot of people have had too. What is Chad's appeal? What is it that grabs people's attention? I'm going to add on to that question and ask one other thing with that. What's Julie Rowe's appeal? But what is Chad's appeal?
That's a great question because he had an appeal. He really did. And I the way I would perceive it or express it is that he had almost like this quiet confidence, this quiet, soft spoken, very authoritative, kind of like, this is the way it is. This is what's going to happen. I've seen this, I've seen that, da 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 da. And people were like, yeah, yeah. He wasn't super charismatic, and so it was like he didn't have to convince anybody. He was just like, "Yeah, this is what I know. This is what I believe, and I don't have to be super flashy to convince you, but I know it's all true and real, and it's going to happen."
Hmm. Did you had him over to your house, you knew him and Tammy. Did a lot of people saw him as humble? Did you see that in him, or how did you perceive him?
I did think he was humble. When I first met him, I thought he was really humble. He's just this guy who had a near-death experience, and he had dreams and visions, and he was just humble, and he was writing these books, but he couldn't come out and say that they were real. He had to write them as fiction, kind of like his story, the line. And I believed it. I believed it. I didn't have any reason not to. I didn't really say, "Oh gosh, I saw him, in this private moment. I saw a different side of him." I didn't have that. So I didn't have any reason not to believe him.
That makes sense. Like, you would never lie about a near-death experience, so why would
Right.
anyone else? Right. A lot of people are like, if it doesn't occur to me, I'm not going to assume other people would think that. Thank you, Michelle Mattis, who's encouraging everyone to remember to give us a thumbs up. That we do have an awesome guest tonight. Thank you, Michelle, for always doing that. And thank you, Peppered with Leopard, for your donation too, and my cute shirt. Becky is asking, do you think Chad and Lori, so specifically Chad and Lori, still have followers who are meeting and continue their movement?
Well, I don't really have any particular knowledge. And so you ask me if I think it, I don't know. I really don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they still have people up in the Rexburg area. I think that's where they're mostly active, that still believe. But they've kind of gone, they're kind of like rats, kind of run and scurry and hide. Maybe that's a mean way to say it, but I do think that there's people that really do believe a lot of it. But I also think that a lot of people, when it, the bodies were found on Chad's property, were like, oh my gosh, I was deceived, and I was wrong, and so.
Yeah. Okay. Um, in other words, you believed, and then most people are probably assuming they were wrong, but they're still believing a vow and preparing a people and these other people that were in a part of this. Well, here's a question for you. Do you what do you believe? As in, I know you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Is that accurate still?
Yes, yeah, yes, I am, and I have to say that I'm very devout and faithful, and I did not grow up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I grew up in another church, and I had very strong experiences that led me to the church, and have continued to have those where I believe it, and I don't apologize for that. And I know that some people that listen they're not members of our church, and they kind of have a hard time believing what we believe. But I'm very faithful and devout, and You can have a variety of beliefs as a member of the church and still be faithful. I mean, it's kind of like a bell curve, you got kind
Mhm.
of the fringe on each end, but in the middle, there's a lot of people in the mainstream middle, but you can still be a little on the fringes and have kind of fringe beliefs and still believe in the main tenets of the church. It's not everybody's cookie cutter.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I do agree with that. There are quite the variety of LDS members, and that's true. Um, Interesting. Thank you for how you explain that. A bell curve. I like that. Thank you so much, Karen Michelle. I love this question by Soul Eyes Jules. They'd like to know if Tammy shared Chad's belief system. So, because of what you just said about the LDS Church, I think she very much was a devout LDS Church member. But did she believe in all of Chad's additional teachings? And what we know, Chad, not only did he have a near death experience, but he was talking multiple probations, and he was doing family history, going to people's houses. Um, what do you know about Tammy's beliefs, or don't know?
I don't really know. I do believe and that she was a very faithful, devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I think that she believed Chad when he said he had a near-death experience and that he had dreams and visions. And then when you get into the stuff that happened up in Rexburg about the multiple probations and all that, my personal opinion is he kept that secret from her. That all this stuff that he was doing, that he wasn't telling her about that. And I don't think she would have agreed to it, and I don't think she would have believed it. I don't think he shared it with her. That's my personal opinion, but I could be totally wrong.
I could believe that. I think you're probably right there. I think that Chad didn't invite her very much into his world because he was flirting with other women, and do you know what I mean? I think that he actually kind of kept his two worlds a little separate from her.
Yeah, I do believe that, and also based upon that, what I sent you, the email that I'd gotten, the quote Reddit email,
Mhm.
it said in there that, Tammy and their 5 kids were zombies. So,
Yes.
I think that he was moving away from them, especially after he had, you know, got associated with Lori and had, he planned a future with her, so they became zombies. So,
Okay, right. That was a fascinating point in the Reddit email that you shared. You shared where it came from, that Melanie Gibb was talking to a bunch of friends and they were all taking notes, and that in your version of the Reddit email before it was even released was additional points, and one of them was that Tammy and his children were declared zombies. Such a weird thing. But yeah, that would also imply she wasn't following and believing him, that it was all quite secretive. I've always wondered if she knew how many times Chad predicted she was going to die. That's a
yeah, I
personal.
bet she didn't know it all, and all these, from what I've heard, and this is secondhand, that a lot of their spouses were gonna die, and I'm, like, thinking, "This is very odd and strange." It's more of a kinda like some people called it a swingers club, and, it's like, if you predict your spouse is gonna die, then you can do whatever you want. It's kind of
Right,
scary, actually.
right. Karen Michelle, thank so much for your always your generous donations. She asked Anna, "How are you and your family doing? How would you suggest others heal from shame or addiction to that movement?" And I want to say one thing about Karen Michelle asking this question. She herself had been in some different cults growing up and is religious, has remained religious herself, or spiritual herself, but she really had to do this too. So I think that this question comes from her heart.
Yeah, well, so far as the whole avow prepping and all that, I tried to share with my kids that I was deceived in a sense, that I got too much into the prepping, and I think they didn't really always like buy into it and say, yep, we're going to the camps with you and all that. They just kind of sat back and observed. But so far as we don't, like, for example, my husband and I do not believe in the call out anymore. And we
The
used
call
to.
out's important. We need to talk about the call out. That's kind
Yeah.
of like the essence of a vow, right? Can you explain what the call out is a little bit?
So, yeah, the call out, I'd never heard of it till we became members of AVOW. Roger K. Young wrote a kind of a book or a pamphlet called.
And he was the founder of AVOW, right?
He started it, and he
He
wrote.
started it and sold it to Christopher Perriott or something.
Yeah, yeah. And he wrote like some book called To Your Tents, O Israel, based upon some probably a scripture. And in there, he had this whole scenario of one day in the future that in some kind of meeting, like maybe a big general meeting of the church, or it might be in your congregation on a Sunday, they would say, okay, everybody who has all their food storage meet in this room after the meetings. And then everybody who had their food storage would go in there and they would say, things are bad. We're all going to go to these camps that have been prepared up in the mountains. And your food storage, get it all ready, get it out on the curb or whatever. And these white trucks, these big semi-white trucks are going to come and pick it all up. And then you meet at this certain place. And it depended on where you were at. If you were like in, Springville, Utah, you'd all meet, and these school buses would take you up to Jolly's Ranch, and that would be your place. Or if you were back eastern United States, then you would caravan to places more in the Midwest. I mean, there were different scenarios. And basically that all the faithful members of the church would go up into these like hideouts in the mountains. And basically they said that they were girls' camps that had been built up in the last few years and made so that lots and lots of people could go there. And that was kind of the idea, that there was going to be this call out. And I were so I had a friend who was in my congregation, and she was a leader in the congregation, and then she was released from that responsibility and asked to be a leader over the young women for a whole, like 10 congregations. And she was in a vow. She had dreams and visions, many, many dreams. And she had dreams of the call out. She had all kinds of dreams. So, she believed in it. She very much believed in it. And I didn't have any, and I loved her. I mean, she was just like we just connected on so many levels. And, I believed that she had those dreams. And I don't know if, there's a lot of group think, right? So people get on a vow, they say, I had this dream. People are reading all about these dreams. And then that night you have this dream, right? And is it a real dream from that's something that's going to happen? Are you influenced by your everything you're reading all day? I don't know. I don't believe in the call out anymore. It just, the more I think about it, and the more I got out of a vow a little over 2 years ago, and I think about it and I thought, that's never been taught in our church. It's never been taught that we're going to go up into the mountains. And, that's just not part of our teaching. And I realized that it was kind of like, oh, this is a secret teaching and you're special because you know it and believe it. And there's so many people that don't know, and you better have your food storage. And anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wanna point out some people are saying, "Oh, I was absolutely taught this," and other people saying, "I'd never heard of it." I'll be honest, I had never heard of the call out until the Chad and Lori Daybell case. And then I have, one friend I know that her mother was a big follower of Julie Rowe. And while she realizes that she doesn't believe Julie anymore, she still believes in the call out. This call out, who those who do believe in it it has a strong hold on them. So for you to say you don't believe in it anymore actually says a lot, because I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, Anna, you're the expert here, but I feel like the call out is almost like the base of a vow a bit. And
I think it is. It
yeah,
is kind of like the test of the true believers in a sense. If you don't believe in the call out, then you probably wouldn't stay on a vow. And also, we haven't talked about this, but Mike Stroud was a big believer in the call out. And he was really into
Let's talk about Mike Stroud. You said something before as we were prepping for this interview, prepping as in,
right?
or this Q&A, I guess, with everyone here. Yeah, can you share your thoughts on Mike Stroud right now?
Yeah, so I had never heard of Mike Stroud until somebody on a vow had said something about him. And so they said, oh, you can listen to these podcasts that he made. And so to give you a background, Mike Stroud was a seminary teacher for many, many, many years in the Arizona area. It was super popular. His first wife died like in a car accident, and then he married again. And I think that was like a second marriage for both of them. And I think she might have died, or I don't know, either that or they got divorced. I don't know. It wasn't a good marriage, I don't think. And then his third wife was seemed like a really nice person because she was on the podcast. She had never been married before, but they met at something. Anyway, he retired, and with her, they retired and they went on missions. Like they went on a mission. Oh gosh, I think it might have been like in the Washington, D.C. or back east somewhere. They went on a mission. They also went on a mission, I think, in like an Asian type country. And I think they went on a mission in the Philippines. And in
Okay.
all those places, he would teach like Book of Mormon classes once a week, kind of like institute.
Mhm.
And people loved them. And people asked him, they said, can you record these? So he started recording them. And then after he got off his mission, people were like, oh, we want to still hear it. And so he just started making like these podcasts, and and you could download them all, which I actually did. And I would start listening to them, and they had some really, really good stuff, really good stuff. But interestingly, I remember listening to some, and I think, I don't believe that. What he just said is not true. And, it's easy to kind of get sucked into things because, you hear an adage of like 99% truth, and then they slip in 1% lie to kind of and lead you along. And so he had these podcasts. I listened to them. Some of the stuff I didn't quite believe, but other stuff was really good. And then what happened was he decided his podcasts are like 10 years old or something, the original Book of Mormon ones that he'd done. And so he decided
Okay.
to revamp them. So he revamped them, and you could go on. I can't remember where, but you could click on a link and you could start listening to them. So I thought, okay, I'm going to listen to these revamped ones because I'd heard about it on a vow. And so I clicked on the first one and I listened to it. And then I was probably like, he was on like 20 or 24, but I was still listening to one or two because I'm kind of slow. And so uh, I remember he said something like, I've learned something new. He said, and what you do is you get up really early in the morning and you find an easy chair and you sit in it and you just kind of close your eyes and you just work. You just kind of like imagine yourself. And I don't remember all the details, but it was just kind of different. It wasn't like praying, like when you kneel down and, say your prayers. It wasn't like that. It was just this weird kind of like you start thinking about stuff, then into your mind will come, you'll have these experiences in your mind. You will get really close to the Spirit and Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to try this. And so like I tried it and I'm like, oh, this isn't working. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try this again. And I just thought either I don't get it. It's not working. I'm not doing this. So then I continued. So like I was like on the fourth podcast when on a vow somebody had posted. So he was already on number 24 or something. And I was way behind. But I didn't want to skip ahead. I kind of want to do them in order, right? And on a vow, a posting said, Mike Stroud is excommunicated. And I'm like, what?
Hmm.
So I hurried and went to whatever podcast that was. And he just very simply said last night, a court was held on me and I was excommunicated from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And my
I
wife was
listened to
not
that
a
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
and he
was
said,
a big drop at the end. Yeah.
"My wife was not excommunicated." Now that was it. He didn't give any reason, he didn't say anything, and I can't remember, but I tried to, like people were trying to find out why, and it was kinda like just word of mouth or hearsay that he was teaching some very, like I guess in these little sessions that he would do, he would, like, kinda do portals and, and
Mhm.
he'd have these spirits and people from the Book of Mormon "visit him." I'm not really sure how that works, but, it was just very and then he was saying how, like, to cast out demons and to do castings and all this kinda stuff, and I think if you'd really gotten into a lot of what he said, that was an impetus for Lori and Melanie, Gibb. They talked about these castings, which I
Mhm.
don't totally understand,
Yeah.
but yeah, so and then also he was saying that I believe, I could be wrong, that different people were supposed to be married to somebody else, and they're part of the 144,000, so it was kinda like all these ideas of Chad's ideas and Mike Stroud's ideas and all these, they kind of all just mix them up and, they come out with these they feed off of each other and one takes it so far and the other one picks it up and he takes it so far. And I think Chad and Lori actually took it really far, to where they ended up murdering people. But yeah, Mike Stroud was, I believe, uh, a big impetus to this whole, I would say apostate type of belief system. And one of the things that Mike Stroud would talk about, he never said it by name. He would never call him by name, but he was referring to Denver Snuffer's books.
Mhm.
And Mike Stroud would never condemn Denver Snuffer. He'd always say,
No.
"Well, I don't know, he's got some really good things, and, the Lord's the only one who can be his judge." And so I think he was heavily influenced by Denver Snuffer, who was excommunicated from the church. And so, yeah, I think that Chad was very influenced by Mike Stroud, and a lot of these people were influenced by Mike Stroud. And there's so many of them. There's so many breakoffs. It's like so hard to keep track of it all.
It is, and I just wanna say thank you for sharing that. I shared on I think it might have been our last TGIF, maybe 2 TGIFs ago with Lori Hollis that I've been doing some research, and that's where my research has led me to think that it really kind of starts with Mike Stroud and then, of course, the, Visions of Glory book and a few other, elements, but, so thank you for sharing. I think Mike Stroud is someone who doesn't get talked about enough. We talk about Jason Mao plenty, but I actually think Mike Stroud might even be more important if I'm gonna dare say that.
I think
Um,
Stroud is a lot more important than Jason Mao.
yeah. T
Yeah.
Diva just asked if I had food storage. We do not. If anything happens, my husband and I are going straight to Rexburg. So that's what we've decided. We're like, they are ready. Let's hope we have some friends there who will take care of us because Rexburg's the place to be. So no, we do not have food storage. Um, Colette says that you're a great storyteller. So there are a few comments and questions that I have seen that I didn't necessarily post. I'm going to ask some of them. Do you think, knowing Garth and Emma a little bit, do you think they'll ever believe, come to that their dad killed their mother, or do you know anything about that?
I really don't know. I know that Garth did get married from the
Hmm.
time that, all this started till now. He's married. So, I know that they are defending their dad, like on 48, was it 48 hours or 2020 or whatever it was? I can't remember. They defended him, and I think that they do believe that the story that he's telling them, I'm sure he's telling them that he was set up and, he didn't have anything to do with it. And I think they believe that. And will they ever believe it? I think that if they go to the trial and they listen to everything, or if they just hear everything that's put forth in the trial and are completely and totally open to a different mindset, I think that they will come to believe it. And I
Right.
I have faith that in the trial, when they get up and they'll say, this was his cell phone, and they explain all the digital, evidence they have, because I kind of get the feeling that they have a ton of digital evidence. And one of the reasons I say that is I don't know if it was in that Reddit thing or in some text back and forth from some people that I used to text with on a vow, but that when Melanie Gibb would remember something and she'd call them up, the police, and say, "Oh yeah, I remembered this," and they'd say, "Yeah, we already know that. We already know that," because they got all of Chad's computers,
Right.
all the stuff, and he probably kept everything on there, and
Right.
so there's probably just mountains and mountains of digital evidence against them. And if those kids will open up their minds and just say, "Well, maybe he did do it," I think that they'll come to be convinced that he did.
Yeah. I hope they do. It'll be the hardest thing that they ever have to go through, realizing the truth, but I also feel like that's the only way they'll be able to perhaps start a really healthy healing process and move on. My heart breaks for those kids, Um, they are sheltered and they were not prepared for the world's eyes to be on them. Um, Leanne Hicks, yes, it's true. Mike Stroud was Jason Mau's seminary teacher. Mike Stroud taught seminary for decades. That's high school religion, LDS religion classes for teenagers. Um, and Carrie Livingston mentions that Mike Stroud believed in these castings too. Leanne Hicks also asked, "Do you know Mike and Nancy James?"
Yes, I do.
And that was all she asked. Do you still keep in touch with them?
I haven't kept in touch with them lately, but yeah, there's a relationship there, a familial relationship. I won't go into any more details
Okay.
about that, but because of that, yes. And uh, we don't really talk about anything with the prepping. I think it really affected their livelihood, and it was really hard for them. Um, so, and I think that they uh, still have some extreme beliefs. I'm pretty sure the last I knew that they really do have those extreme beliefs. Those are really hard to get rid of. How do you get rid of a belief? It's not like an old coat you can just throw off. It's something that
Right.
in your mind you have to really go dig deep and ask yourself lots of questions like, is this really reality, or is this really true? Could this not be true? And what am I going to do if it's really not true?
That was such a great explanation. Thank you for sharing that you don't just get rid of these beliefs. And for those that are wondering, Mike and Nancy James, I probably didn't explain them well. They are the founders and were the owners of Preparing a People, who really gave Chad Daybell his platform. He was with them from the beginning. Their first conference was at the Rexburg Tabernacle. My interview Girl on Fire talks about it. You talk about it a bit in your interview with me, Anna. Anna, it was a big moment. It was full. And so Mike and Nancy James sort of planned these conferences where Sean Little Bear, that was another one that was there, and Rod Meldrum, and everyone would talk. And Colette is actually asking a question uh, in referencing Mike and Nancy James. What do you think of their current project with Rod Meldrum and the Joseph Smith Foundation? And I don't know if you know about the Joseph Smith Foundation or Rod Meldrum. We didn't even get to that in discussing this interview.
Yeah,
But
I know that Rod Meldrum, he's kind of a big on the where the Book of Mormon lands took place. That's about what I know about him. That they took place in central and eastern North United States. And then the Joseph Smith Foundation, I think that's the Stoddards. Didn't know much about that, but I did listen to, I don't know, if somebody referenced it and I went and listened to it.
it
So,
was Colette Cox's channel, Hidden True Crime Underground.
okay,
Or
yeah.
sorry, True, no hidden, True Crime Underground. And they released a audio recording of Hannah Stoddard and the family. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and that was kind of a troubling thing to listen to. But I did hear that they believed in multiple mortal probations. And if that is true, and I don't know that it is, but if it is true, then I don't believe in multiple mortal probations. I think it's can be very, I don't know, in a way, just like tempting to believe in that, because I have a family member whose husband is very high up, pretty high up in the church, I'd say, not like a general authority or anything, but more than on a local, just congregational level, a little bit higher than that. And she went to Julie Rowe's stuff. She believed in, I asked her one day, I said, "Do you believe in multiple?" She goes, "Oh yeah, I believe in multiple mortal probations. It just makes sense." And
Mm.
I was just like, whoa, I haven't talked to her about it since then, because I have mentioned to it, and she goes, "I don't talk to anybody about it. I don't talk to anybody at all about this."
Huh.
So I don't know if she's backed off. I didn't want to ask her, "Do you believe in multiple mortal probations?" Sometimes people change their beliefs and they're maybe embarrassed or ashamed. And so I just didn't want to say anything, because I have a relationship with her outside of all of this. So I just kind of stick to that.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Bo Peep is asking, does Anna have a thought on Melanie Gibb? That she completely believed in what Chad was teaching. But I'm going to go a little bit further and ask you what your thoughts are on Melanie Gibb, especially with the Reddit email.
So I don't know her personally at all, never did. But my feeling is that she totally believed it. I believe she believed it. And I think the only reason that she kind of quit believing it was when the thing happened with the kids. And I also believe that David Warwick also believed it, but then he was like, "I don't know if I believe this anymore." And he told her, "You got to get out of this. Let's walk away from it." Although I got to tell you that, David Warwick would do all these podcasts, and he had all kinds of dreams and visions ever since he was like a teenager. And I've listened to pretty much a ton of his stuff. And he would always, always, always talk about his wife, his first wife. And he would go on and on about her in every single podcast. And so when I heard that he had divorced her and that Melanie had divorced her husband, I kind of lost a lot of respect for him. And I just thought, and now they've married each other. And I don't know. I just don't. I know that they got sucked into Chad's teachings, and I do believe they believed it. I really do. But,
Yeah.
now if you listen to the interviews, police interviews, she kind of wants to distance herself from that, because it's bad.
Right. Right. Yeah, she is trying to distance herself. Um, I agree. Going back to some Patreon comments. Oh, well, this is one thing. You were not at the Rexburg Tabernacle event, right? The infamous or
Right. Yeah.
famous. You just
Yeah,
heard a
no.
lot about it.
Yeah.
A lot of my interviewees were there. Sean Littlebear, Girl on Fire, Rod Meldrum was there. I've never interviewed him. I've asked him. He hasn't written me back. But did you hear the story about the car alarms going off at
Yeah,
that?
I did. I did hear that.
So can you tell me what your thoughts or what other people's thoughts were on that? So there was a moment, it was Rod Meldrum speaking. No, it was Julie Rowe. I can't remember who was speaking. But Sean Littlebear was with Rod Meldrum. I know that from my interview with him. Girl on Fire has said it really happened. What were people saying about that when you heard it? That was like a moment that everyone remembers. And Sean Littlebear even said that he did some priesthood thing with Rod Meldrum when it happened. And Girl on Fire's husband was a bodyguard there and said it happened and that a lot of people or Julie Rowe announced it meant something. What did you hear about that? Sorry, that's sort of off topic, but
Yeah, I think it happened in the sense that all the car alarms went off. Is that unusual? Yeah. Was it a coincidence? Probably. Did they read a whole bunch into it? Yep. That's just my opinion, you know.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
if you're thinking, "Oh, we're really special and we have all this insider knowledge and Satan wants to destroy us." I mean, Lori Vallow Daybell is really into, "Oh, this is a test. Satan wants to destroy us. We're in
right,
jail, and this is just a test." And if you have that it's us against them kind of mindset, and you're thinking, "Okay, this is Satan. He's trying to destroy this preparing a people conference in Rexburg. And, that's just my opinion. I just think I don't think it was anything supernatural.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and that helps us kind of set your belief separate than others too. Do you know what I mean? Like what
Yeah.
you're seeing being a devout member of the church, compared to what others are believing at these little bit more fringe or radical kind of meetings that aren't sponsored by the church necessarily.
Right.
A couple more Patreon questions because I do want to get through all of these. Cherie asks, she asks a lot about questions about Julie Rowe, and I am curious about this too because Julie Rowe, or so we all thought, maybe had a bit of a fall from grace. I don't know if you agree with that or not, because I'm really not sure. I didn't know of Julie Rowe before the Chad Daybell case, but Shri asks a few questions about her. We see Julie is building a house with her new husband. Does Anna know if Julie is able to do this because of the Greater Tomorrow Relief Fund that she has? That's something that she asked you, Anna, to deed your property over for. And then what have you heard as far as about how Julie Rowe is doing? And do you feel that Julie Rowe still has a strong following?
Well, I don't know the answer to a lot of those questions because when I got off of Vow and I had mentioned that we had stopped and seen Julie and her husband on our way from Utah to the eastern United States in June of 2017. And we stopped there. And that's when she was saying to me, oh, I was Joan of Arc in a previous life. And I've seen Chad translated and he saw me translated. And when we left, I said to my husband, I said, she's gone off the deep end. I don't ever want to stop and see them again. So that was kind of it, right?
Right.
So, but I have heard, that she divorced her husband and claiming abuse, and he was the nicest guy. I
You
don't
knew Jeff Rowe. His
Yeah,
name is
we knew
Jeff.
Jeff. He was
That's
really
her first husband who she had her children with.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you had been to their house, she had been to yours. You
yeah,
knew them well, and so he was a nice guy. Okay.
he's a nice guy, and, very long suffering, being married to Julie and trying to still love her and support her, and maybe, thinking this is all kind of crazy, and I think she was on meds. I think she had either bipolar or schizophrenia, and that's all speculation, okay? But I've heard that she did say on some podcast she had mental illness, and so I don't know what it was, but that seems to be, kind of fits it. So I don't know anything about where she got her money to build her house. I do know that she charged a whole boatload of money for those conferences and for her energy healing. So she could have burned through, or the money could have quit coming into the Greater Tomorrow Relief Fund. But she was really, she was really good at marketing herself and getting money. So I don't know. I don't even know where she lives. I don't even know who she's married to. And I have heard she's building a house, but I don't know where she got the money for it. But I'm sure that when she was doing all this stuff and she could see how much money she was making, and she gave her a lot of, like, oh, I'm going to leave my husband. And she had this way of always trying to get the attention of other men. Okay. That was a
Mhm.
big thing to her, was I think,
Even I'll say your husband a bit.
yeah, even my husband. And so, I think that that comes from her family of origin. I know that there were issues there. She told me there were, with her parents and her mother's affair and the whole breakup of their family. And so I think that a lot of that has affected her. So yeah, I don't know where she got her money, but I wouldn't doubt if it's from all her stuff that she was doing. She charged a boatload of money for things.
Yeah, and that famous story you shared on your original interview was she was looking at her phone and she said, "Man, I need some money. Better do an energy healing
Yeah,
session." I
yeah,
won't forget
yeah.
that story. Yeah. Yeah. Carrie Livingston says that she thinks Julie Rowe still seems to be getting attention, saying recently she's going to model string bikinis. Hey, whatever it takes, I'll tune in for that.
Yeah.
So just to see what comments come. Yeah, Anna said meds, not meth. Someone asked if you said something about meth. No, nothing about meth. Yeah, I've heard also that Julie Rowe was kind, or sorry, that Jeff Rowe was a good man. And I want to share. I know nothing about their marriage. I'm not even pretending to know that, but I do want to share that you said that she did admit to having mental health issues, and Girl on Fire mentioned her having mental health issues. I have heard from a pretty solid source now that she was officially diagnosed, um, medically diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So that's kind of a mystery solved. I'm gonna go further myself and say I think there might be a lot more to that, but I do believe she was diagnosed officially with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Um, let's see. Let me go back to thanks for sharing about Julie Rowe. This is an interesting question from Nora on Patreon. Hi, Anna. I would like your thoughts on why so many seem to be having all these dreams and visions. Is it social media that's fueling it? I'm in California and I'm seeing it happen here now in the Bay Area. I think maybe a lot of people have free time on their hands or just bored and want some excitement, but what is going on? There are so many Julie Rose around now. Is it the oils and energy healing and maybe the LaRue leggings? um, that's funny. It's mostly women, although I know a few men into it too, but it seems like they're mainly single and seeming to be hunting for a partner. Do you feel like you're seeing an increase in sort of dreams and visions? I've seen an increase, but I think part of maybe me seeing it is studying this case. So it's hard for me to stay non-biased there, understand if it's me researching the case that I'm seeing it more, or if it really is increasing.
Well, there's a lot to it. I would like to say that in the scriptures it says, in the last day, the young men shall dreams, and old somebody will see visions. So I do believe that it is part of the last days, and I don't think that's bad. We know that, if from the scriptures, like Joseph had a vision, he had a dream to marry Mary, right? And he had a dream to flee into Egypt. And Saul had a vision on the way to Damascus. I mean, the scriptures, Joseph of Egypt, right? He had dreams and he interpreted dreams. So dreams and visions are very much a part of followers of Christ. Okay.
Okay.
Now, so having said that, there are cultures that believe in dreams and visions. In fact, when I was in graduate school at BYU, there is a gal there who she was Maori, and she ended up going to BYU Hawaii, and was a professor there, and then she became in the administration. I don't know if she's still there, but she was really big. But she told me that her like great whatever grandfather, who was the chief of a village on an island, and he was Maori. And one night he had a dream, and in his dream he saw a dove, and that dove was flying in the air, and then the wings of the dove turned into the pages of a book. And it was written on the pages, "Oh, house of Israel, how oft I would have gathered you as a hen gathereth her chickens, and you would not." And it was written 3 times. And then he saw 2 guys in top hats and carrying a book. And he told all his people, "I've had this dream. They have the true religion, and they're going to come." And some time went by, and it was an island. So when anybody came to the island, they came to the one place where they all get off their boat, and they came running to him and said, "They're here. They have top hats and they have a book." And everybody on the island converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
And she told me that in their culture, they believe in dreams and visions. And she said, if you Americans or white people believed more in dreams and visions, you would have them. She goes, "We believe in them and we have them." And then she told me about a dream that she just had about her parents and her dad. And she called home, because this is back in the days you had to pay. And so she didn't call home very much. She called home. She said, "Mom, I had this dream about Dad." And her mom's like, "Oh, it's not true. It's not true." And then a couple days later, Mom called her back and said, "It's all true." everything that you dreamed happened, and it wasn't a good thing. And
Okay.
so yeah, I believe that people can have dreams and visions. I believe that I think they're private. I believe that they're private unless you're very specifically told to share them. And I don't think that every time a person has a dream or a vision, though, that it means that it's true or going to come to pass,
Right.
or that it means that it applies to other people. So yeah, maybe people are having a bunch of dreams and visions, and I don't think that's bad. And if it's for their life, I think that's a great thing. So that's kind of my ideas about dreams and visions.
Thank you for sharing that. That leads me to one of my questions that I've written down. I've written down a few questions for you. Um, and I have similar background in religious. Um, I have the similar background of religion that you do. But I don't know the answer to this one. What There are so many NDEs, that's what I call them now, or near death experiences, that all these people have near death experiences. Julie Rose had 5 or 6, she claims. Chad had 2, and they're also not, the type that are putting you in the hospital with, someone trying to revive you. They're just like happen. But my question is, why is an NDE needed for a near death experience needed for a vision? It seems like everyone now not doesn't just have one near death experience. These dreamers and visionaries on a vow and preparing the people is what I'm referring to. They don't, no one's having just one, and they're not necessarily going to the hospital for them. They're kind of just becoming a thing. Here's another one. And Julie Rowe even mentioned that she was going to have an NDE during her surgery because she was going to see things. But why is an NDE needed for visions? I guess is my question. I don't recall Joseph Smith, the founder of the LDS Church, ever having an NDE, and he had plenty of visions. What is with near-death experiences?
Well, that's interesting because I have actually found this YouTube channel that somebody shared with me, and it's all NDEs. And
Okay.
somebody had said on the one they shared with me was about some stuff that was going to happen in the future. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I listened to it. It wasn't in great detail, but so I do believe that they're becoming more and more commonplace, and I attribute that to, when you get revived, they can bring you back now, like the paramedics or the hospital, and so people are slipping through the veil, but they're being brought back, and so I think that that's why they're so much more commonplace than they used to be. In fact, my dad had an NDE, and he didn't even know it was an NDE. This was like, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I'm in my mid-60s, and he was in his 40s, and he had a bypass. They only did one at a time then, and he was in the ICU or the recovery or post-op, whatever. And he didn't know it was an NDE. He thought he had a dream, and he saw his mother, and she came to him and she said some things to him. And then he's like, oh, that was a weird dream. And then it wasn't until years later with what that moody guy. And he's like, I had that happen to me. And I really believe that he did have an NDE. He didn't know it was an NDE, but now everybody knows about NDE. So when people have them, they share them. And I don't know. With Julie Rose saying, oh, I'm going to have an NDE. Okay. I personally think that's bogus. How do you know you're going to have an NDE? And if you say you're going to have one and then, oh gosh, you had one. And then, it's just a bunch. In my mind, she's trying to get attention. Uh, you know, it sells books. Okay, let's be honest.
Okay.
It sells
It does
lots.
sell books. There are a lot of NDE books out there. Visions of Glory has to do with near-death
Yep.
experiences. Sarah,
Monet.
what's her yeah, Monet, she was big on AVOW. Julie Rowe, Chad Daybell. There does seem to be a market for books too. People like near-death experiences. I guess to prove that there's also an afterlife, maybe to reassure people.
Yeah, I think that's a big
Uncertainty.
part of it. I think the fear of death, we all have that. It's in us. And when people have NDEs and it's like it's wonderful, it's great. Most of them are really good. There's a few that aren't. But yeah, I don't know why. I have no idea, but I think it's because of the medical techniques that we have now that we can bring so many people back that years ago they would have just died and there wouldn't have been any
True.
NDEs.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, interesting. But let's clarify, no one needs, according to a vow preparing a people in you, um, do people need an NDE to state they had a vision?
No, no, I don't see them as related at all.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I don't see them combined.
Okay. Um, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And thank you for everyone's opinions. I was going really fast posting things up because I wanted to get a variety of everyone's thoughts on that. So thank you to everyone for sharing your thoughts. So what let's go to my other questions then. Um, oh, we got to a lot of them. The call out, Tammy, kids, Mike, Stroud. We talked about Melanie. Did we talk about why you thought Melanie was worried? We did a little bit. Anything else you want to talk about that? You kind of thought that the Reddit email and her discussing so much was she was worried. In other words,
Yeah, Melanie should have stuff to be worried about if they put her on the witness stand because she's contradicted herself a lot.
yeah. What
Yeah.
are your feelings about Melanie Gibb?
I think that she was, from what I've heard, I don't know, that she was a kind of a wannabe. She wanted to be in the in group. She wanted to, and so she latched onto Lori because Lori seemed to be, charismatic or whatever. And they kind of, um, they just kind of wanted to be in with the popular kids, right?
Right. Right. I agree. I'm going to go on a quick little tangent here with Carrie Livingston's question because I realized I also didn't share this. Where is Lori Hollis tonight? Um, she's out of town and she wanted me to announce to everyone that she's going to let everyone know about all the mini filings by Pryor later and soon. And Carrie Livingston is asking, what does everyone think? Was Lori found competent today in her hearing or not? And do you have an opinion on that, Anna?
Well, I don't know. I mean, my feeling is I wish they would find her competent because I would like, to see her face, justice because I think she is guilty and I think she is. I mean, I think she's malingering, but I know that a lot of people say, look, these people are really smart. These people at the mental hospital, it's really hard for her to malinger. And I'm just thinking she's pretty, convincing and she has a way. She spent her whole life manipulating people. So, nobody's immune to being manipulated, even if you have a PhD after your name, you can be manipulated, especially by a pretty face and skinny body and you know, I think that she can be manipulative, but I don't know. And I hope she was found competent. And it's like Lori Hellis has said, you can still have a weird religious beliefs and be competent. You can still believe all those things with all your heart and still be competent. So
Right, right. Exactly. I think well said. Exactly. So I'm gonna just give my prediction about Lori, whether or not she's found competent. Lori Hollis suggested last week that because it was sealed and private today, maybe not. We've both gone back and forth. I'm gonna say that she has been found competent.
she
So
has,
I'm gonna suggest that I don't know for a fact.
right, but you're saying she has.
That's my
Your
guess.
guess. Okay. Well, I hope so. I hope you're right.
Yeah. Um, uh, so let me go on to some more questions. Oh, somebody asked where we can find the unredacted Reddit email that you've mentioned that you gave to me. Two places. You can listen to Anna's interview, part 2, to hear it all, or you can go to our Instagram account. It's Hidden True Crime, Instagram.com/Hidden True Crime. And as you scroll down the post, there aren't too many posts, but it is titled the infamous Reddit email. And we have the unredacted Reddit email. I also think it is on Reddit, but those are a few places. And it's on patreon.com/Hidden True Crime. Those are a few places you can read it. So thank you, Megan Music. You agree with me. Yeah, I think she's going to be found competent. So here's to hoping. Some more questions for you. Erica asks a great question, and it's something actually that Mary Deethy, thank you, Mary Deethy, for your support so much. I think these two kind of go together. They're a little different, but they go together. So Mary Deethy is asking, why are temple recommends held in higher esteem by the enlightened groups than even LDS? And then I'm going to throw out this Patreon question by Erica Zwick. She says, if members of these fringe groups believe that the LDS Church has become corrupt, or lost its way, why are they so determined to keep their temple recommends? And then she puts a quote by Hector Sosa. And in quotes, Hector, quote, it is not worth it to lose your temple recommend by trying to defend out of mainstream ideas or teachings. At this point in time, having access to the temple is greater than anything else. End quote, Hector Sosa.
Oh, gosh. I don't really know the answer to that. I don't know why Hector said that. I think this was all pre-COVID, and I don't know I don't know. I think that there's something about their groups that maybe it was this whole idea of when Chad and Lori went to the temple and got supposedly sealed. I don't know. I really don't know. So, yeah, don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. You don't know everything. We want you to know everything. We want you to have all of our answers, but we understand you only know what you know. Karen Michelle also asked you later, do you know if Tammy believed in multiple mortal probations or reincarnation?
I do not know. My guess is no. I would say that she didn't. I think Tammy was pretty much a really good, faithful LDS member who supported her husband, even though she didn't really believe everything that he did. But I don't think he told her everything, like I said. I think he kept a lot from her, especially after they got to Rexburg and he started in and all his stuff. And he got a following, and he found that he had this following, and he just got more and more bizarre. And he found that people would believe it, and maybe he believed it too, but I don't think she knew.
Okay. What are your thoughts on Hector Sosa? You edited, your husband helped, or no, you edited his book.
Well,
You're really interested in his book. What are your thoughts on him? He really stood by Chad more than anyone. And what I mean by that is once the children's bodies were found, Christopher Parrott, owner of Ex-AVOW, came out and said, okay, I was wrong, whatever. But even Hector Sosa's like, innocent until proven guilty. He stood by Chad probably longer than anyone.
Yeah, I just think that, he was tight in with Chad, and he believed Chad, and he was into all of Chad's stuff. And it just, he just drank the Kool-Aid. And Chad probably told him, oh, I didn't do anything to the kids. They're safe. We got it hidden because grandma's trying to, this is about millions of dollars. That same story that he spun to Christopher Parrott at the beginning. And I believe that, Hector just drank the Kool-Aid, believed it, just like their kids are like, oh, he was framed,
Right. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. I had another question. Do you feel anyone has taken the place of Chad, Lori, or Julie, as in is a group active from your perspective? You sort of answered this at the beginning, but any other thoughts on that?
Because I'm not in that world anymore, I have no clue. But I would say that there may be. I mean, I've heard of this one group, and I think Julie Rose promoting this idea that Joseph Smith was killed by Brigham Young, and this
This is
whole
a big one right now. Let's talk about this. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So I don't really know much about it other than they've got a following, and I just think people are like have I don't know what it is, if they have too much time on their hand or they don't they just they grasp onto these ideas that are somewhat appealing. There's some kind of appeal there, and it's just like Melanie's now husband said, "I always knew there was more, but I just didn't know what it was. I always thought, always kind of like, oh, I want the deeper stuff, the deeper things. And so they hear somebody talking about them and they just think, oh, this sounds good. I kind of think that's what it's from.
Right, right, right. Okay. Yeah, well said. That makes sense. Um, Someone asked, anything else you can share about Tammy? They say that people feel like maybe she gets a bit forgotten, or your observations about Tammy when she was at your home or when you saw her at church.
Well, I know that I just can see up on the screen that she said she was too busy holding down the fort and bringing home the money. Exactly. That's what she was doing. She was being a mother. She was being the provider. She was doing it all. And you know what? She wasn't out there trying to she wasn't trying to be in the limelight. She wasn't trying to get, followers. She was just, trying to keep her head above water, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to read a few YouTube comments from, if you're okay, if you need to end, Anna, we'll end. It's very, whatever. Do you want
Um,
to end now?
Can I take just like a couple minute break and then
Yes.
come back and you can say whatever you want, but I need to go do something. I sent you a quick text on it. So I
Oh, sorry. And I
okay,
missed it.
I'll run and do it.
There it
And I'll be
is.
right back.
Okay. Got it. I apologize. Yes, absolutely. Um, Hello, everyone. So, yes, so Lori is out of town and she wanted me to tell everyone tonight that, and I forgot to mention that I know that, and Carrie Livingston, thank you for your email yesterday or the day before. I know a lot of people were excited too and are excited to learn about Pryor's latest filings, and we're all anxiously awaiting what happened at the hearing today. So, and I want everyone to know that while I have feelings and suspicions, my guess is just a guess about, just fingers crossed I'm right. But I think that it's very possible she could be found competent. In addition, people have asked, I saw some questions. Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. I think we're at 18,000 followers right now. And I want to do like a panel celebration with some subscribers when we hit 20,000. So thank you to everyone who's subscribed. And thank you for the very funny comments that I'm seeing too.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, already. Wow. Okay.
It was
My
quick.
goodness. And I'm trying to think what else I need to tell them really quickly. And I also just want to say again, thank you to Peppered with Leopard. Thank you, Lindsay Lou, so much. Thank you. Thank you. I love your comments. And she, like I said, she's been sending the good Lori and I clothing to wear, but also she has told me um, repeatedly, and she's told Lori Hollis this, that she's like, I love it because I have met the greatest friends through your subscribers. You have the most wonderful women that watch your show because I've become friends with them as people have been shopping on my shop. So I just want to say thank you. And thank you to people who have been giving support on PayPal as well. The PayPal link, I haven't gotten to everyone to thank, but it's meant a lot. All right. Hello. That gave me a bit of time to catch up on some things. So thank you, Anna. I hope you're still here, right? I can't
Yep,
see you.
I'm here.
Okay. These are some comments. I told that Anna this was going to be less than an hour tonight, so that's why I want to say, Anna, if I'll be looking at my text now and whatever you need. So, these are questions or comments on your interview, which are really interesting. This is from Kimby. She says, I left a vow when The guy, who went by the pseudonym Coy Boy, was ousted by Christopher Parrott. That was a very long time ago, but clearly not much has changed over there. It's kind of embarrassing. Christopher still sends out his highlight emails, the latest panic items and doom and gloom he's trying to use to drag people back in. The last one was literally copy and pasted from the Drudge report. All the same stories in all the same order. I remember some poor lady over there saying how she sold her wedding rings to buy food storage, and her husband was so hurt over that. It's just sick and wrong. Plus, Parrot used to read people's private messages. There was a not so private messaging function on Avow. He's the king of the full scrub. He can make any detractor disappear off the forum at any time, along with every post they ever did. He removes all competition and criticism. There was a lot of revisionist history happening there after Chad started to look guilty. In a couple of years, those poor subscribers will not even remember what went on. That is clearly not a question, but somebody's personal account. But I was wondering your thoughts on Christopher Parrott and what you think about her personal experience, Kimby's personal experience.
Yeah, I agree with her.
Okay.
He did all those things, and you have to understand that this is his livelihood, this is his business. So he's going to do whatever he has to protect it. He's probably in his 60s. Where is he going to get another job, right? So, he'll do things that probably aren't very filled with integrity to do that, and he was pretty said a lot of nasty things to the group of women that we texted back and forth when this whole chat thing broke. And he was, deleting stuff and calling them out, calling them all kinds of horrible names. And, we all decided we're leaving. And my subscription was just ready to come up because you bought it on a yearly basis. And I just said, I'm out. I'm done. And so, yeah, and he would send out these, come back at half price and all this stuff. And I sent him a message and just said, you disgust me. Because even after the video that came out showing Chad touching Lori's hind end in the storage unit, you
Yep.
still defended him knowing he was married to Tammy at the time. And you
Wow.
were still defending him. And I said, that's disgusting. And don't ever send me anything again. And guess what? I have never gotten a thing from him ever again. So
That story deserves a slow clap. Well done. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yeah, everyone's saying, way to go. Way to go. A couple. So, Missy writes, this question is for Anna. Based upon the totality of your experience with both Julie Rowe, Chad Daybell, Avow, and any other LDS prepper group, do you think that Julie knows that she is a fraud, lying compulsively and taking advantage of people's fears?
well, what I have to say about that is that, we all kind of live in our own little reality, right?
Mhm.
And think about there's a thing called the social dilemma, and it talks about how whatever you look up online, they send you that kind of stuff. And you can just get into this little feedback loop of your own thinking. And so I think that Julie, because of her mental illness, I believe that, I believe she's a liar and a fraud, frankly. And I think that there may have been a time when she thought, maybe this isn't quite right, but she justified it and got to the point where you start to believe your own lies and you think, well, if all these people believe me, there has to be some truth. And I think she
Yes.
got to that point a long time ago where she believed her own lies, and so she's now past the point. There's no point of no return. I think that everybody can come back, but the likelihood of her saying, you know what, I'm a fraud, I'm a liar, and I scammed people for their money, I mean, that the likelihood of that ever happening is probably very, very, very low. It's a probability, but it's really low. And, she's got a new husband and she's got a brand new house she's building, and she's living the good life, right? So why should she give up, or why should she even mentally explore the fact that she's a fraud and a liar? That would probably send her into a nervous breakdown, and she doesn't want to deal with that. So
Well said. Well said. Thank you for sharing that. Um, a couple more comments from YouTube that I appreciated. Um, Martha Salter said, "Vision porn made me laugh. I laughed too when you referred to a vow and preparing to people and all these dreams and visions as vision porn." Someone said it made him laugh, made them laugh. Martha said that, and it's accurate. Do you still use that term, Anna, in explaining?
yeah, yeah, it's true. It just is. It's addictive. I mean, I would say that I was addicted because I would get on every day. There was not a day that went by that I wouldn't get on. And even I would get on Sunday and I'd say, well, this is kind of church stuff, you know.
Hmm.
And even if I read all kinds of postings that didn't have anything to do with church necessarily, I'd think, well, this is kind of church. It's got dreams and visions, and people talked about religious things, and so yeah, I was addicted to it, and I was really glad to get out and to, your perspective, even as more and more time goes by, my perspective has become, I think, more clear, and I'm able to see more of that kind of, deception and that kind of world that people can really get caught up into.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Alan says, as a longtime member of AVOW, as someone who met Julie Rowe a handful of times, I want to be absolutely clear about Julie's motivation and bodyguards. It was sex. All of these people were extremely horny. They were also extremely LDS. They sought intimacy in whatever way they felt was justifiable. This intimacy often was as awkward and dumb, like being a bodyguard for Julie. That's definitely a strong statement. So, what are your thoughts about what Alan is saying as a longtime member of AVOW?
Well, I don't know personally, of course, but I do think that from what I've heard, yeah, it was kind of like a swingers club, and it's really tragic because if you know anything about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, chastity is considered very important, and that's just totally not what we believe at all. So, I believe in an adversary. I believe in God, and I believe that there's Satan, and I believe that he wants to destroy people and he wants to destroy families. And what better way than to get people to be unfaithful to their spouses?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share? Before I know that everyone could keep you talking. I've definitely kept you a lot longer than intended. Um, so Lindsay Lou is asking, and it's similar to Karen Michelle's comment earlier, but what's the biggest lesson you took from this experience, if it's something you haven't shared yet?
I guess the biggest lesson is to always touch base with yourself and on a deep level, to always say, ask yourself the question, is what I believe true? Am I seeing things accurately? Is there any way possible that I could be seeing this inaccurately? And, you know, um, just kind of delve into that and just not be afraid of, to not be afraid of what, your intuition tells you, and not be afraid to explore that, because there's nothing worse than just having blinders on and going full speed ahead down the wrong path.
Right, right. I also loved the analogy used of, you can't just strip yourself of beliefs. It's not like taking off an old coat. And we do have to um, have, empathy for those that are stuck in a belief system that, some of us can't fathom. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I appreciate you kind of sharing that too. Belief systems are very difficult to see your way out of if you need to see your way out of them, you
Yeah,
know?
and, in response to what you said, we just need to give each other grace, because we're all on this journey together, and we're all scared, struggling, divine, amazing beings in this process of life. We all make mistakes, and we all do things wrong, And, the best thing we can do is just be gentle and kind to each other, and, not be so harsh and judgmental. I've seen a lot of, harshness and judgment coming from people towards, Chad and Lori. And yeah, they are going to be judged by the law of the land and by God, but also other people involved. And then even also when I had my 2 interviews, in the comments, there were a lot of judgments about me. And, and I think
Yes.
you don't even know me. You don't know anything about me. And, I'm very open and honest about the fact that I'm a faithful, devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I don't apologize for that. And maybe some people think that this is all the church's fault, or the church is not, it's Joseph Smith was a liar, whatever. That's fine, but you should respect people's beliefs. And, I try to do that. I you know, try to give people a little bit of grace and understand that we're all imperfect.
That was so well said. Thank you. Next to your letter that you wrote to Christopher Parrott, that was my next favorite thing you said tonight. Thank you that we can all respect everyone's beliefs. And you're right. Yeah, you gave such an incredible interview on our channel. Again, for anyone that hasn't seen it, I would recommend it. And it's 2 parts. And if you watched it back in November when it was released, I would recommend revisiting it again, because I just did, and it's incredible. But there are some cruel commenters, and I've always told my interviewees there will always be cruel comments, but and we leave a lot of those on at Hidden True Crime because we want to have a conversation. But so I just want to I thank you for sharing that. We all need to respect everyone's beliefs, and that's the best way to learn too. Let's listen and learn. So thank you, and thanks for your honesty. A lot of people have thanked you tonight
You're welcome.
for that. Yes, we all need grace. Thank you, Anna. Anything else you want to say? Especially after the interview was released, anything else that you feel like has been on your mind that you've wanted to share?
No, I think I've said, I think it's really good to, like you said, it's really good to listen and respect everybody's beliefs, even if they aren't the same as yours, because we all can learn a lot from each other. We're all humans here, right? And
Mhm.
we have so much more in common than we do differences, and we need to band together on those similarities, like just like what's going on politically with Ukraine. And people from all over the world have come together to try to help this poor country. And, we can set aside our differences and say, this is evil. We see the face of evil and we want to fight against it. We're not going to put up with it. And, there's so many different people coming together to do that. So I think
Right.
that's kind of how we have to look at our similarities and try to find common ground and help and lift each other to be better.
Thank you. Anna, thank you for not only being our avow expert and our insider's scoop on all of these people, but I'd love to have you back on sometime. I mentioned it to you before and we didn't even get there, but to maybe answer some basic LDS questions when it comes to Chad Daybell's specific beliefs and how they all make sense. So we'll discuss that another time. I'm sure people will want you back. Again, a big request to give this video a thumbs up. Thank you, Michelle, for all of the comments you've shared, reminding people. She let me know that us know that if we get 300 thumbs up, then it hit a record. I didn't even know that. So thank you. And thank you everyone for subscribing. Thank you everyone for your support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll be back again next week, and we'll see what the news is on the closed hearing today. So thank you, Anna, so much for being with us.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.